Lori Vallow was convicted of murdering her 2 children and conspiracy to commit murder for her 5th husband's wife, Tammy Daybell. Now she's been moved from Pocatello Penitentiary for Women to Arizona, where she is facing 2 more murder charges. This is conspiracy to commit murder against her 4th husband, Charles Vallow, attempted murder on her niece Melani's husband, at the time, Brandon Boudreaux. Melanie has since divorced Brandon, and both Melanie and Brandon are remarried. Now, it's no shock to any of us that Lori would eventually have to face these charges as soon as she was finished with her trial in Idaho. But the question of the hour is whether or not she had some co-conspirators. And if so, will they also face consequences as well? That's the question of the hour. Her niece Melanie had some very sketchy interactions, comments, interviews, and that's what I want to talk about today. I want to show you what I have learned over the years, what we've seen, and just kind of compile it all into one easy place to be able to see, did Lori's niece Melanie contribute to the attempted murder? Did she know it was going to happen? Did she participate in any way? I would love to show you all that I have and hear what you think. If you think that the charges are coming, or do you think Melanie, there's not enough and she's off the hook? But before I show you niece Melanie's interviews, I wanted to show you a little bit from Lori just recently. Since Lori went to trial in Idaho, we didn't hear from her very often. Her attorneys always spoke for her. So this is one of the rare occasions where we actually hear her on her own. She hasn't been assigned attorneys at this point. She has now, but when this was recorded, she hadn't. So she was speaking for herself. So let's listen to this.
Are those cases going to be combined, or are they going to be done separately?
Well, they are 2 separate cases, but they're going to be handled at the same hearing.
Okay.
Okay. So you can talk to your lawyer, but they are 2 separate cases, which means that you'd have 2 separate proceedings going forward if it goes to trial.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Howell?
Just one attorney, or more attorneys will be assigned?
Well, at this point in time, you're likely going to have the one lawyer represent you at this particular hearing. What the Maricopa County Public Defender does at this point in time with respect to who they assign for counsel for you, or how many lawyers you have, or anything like that, that will be between you and your lawyer.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
So you're saying that will I get to talk to them before that arraignment hearing, or will just at that arraignment hearing they'll be assigned?
Well, typically you do meet your lawyer at that arraignment hearing. Under the circumstances of this case, they may reach out to you before that hearing to have discussions with you. There is also a telephone number that you're going to have on your paperwork that will be able to connect you with the Maricopa County Public Defender's Office.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Vallow. I appreciate it. All right.
On December 7th, Lori met with her attorneys and they pled not guilty. It was an interesting hearing, short, to the point, but I guess Lori got a hold of some Jolly Ranchers because she had her pink lipstick, pink makeup on again. Wasn't looking too fancy in her bracelets around her ankles, but nonetheless, this is moving forward. So she will need to face the charges that she has conspiracy to commit first-degree murder against her 4th husband, Charles, and, as I said before, her niece's attempted murder for her niece's husband. And as I said before, I just want to talk about Melanie. And when you look at the interview that she gave, a few interviews, but when you look at the one in particular, and she mapped out all the things, a lot of questions were asked her, and she answered all these questions. And now that we've seen the text threads that were brought up in the case between her and Melanie and Chad and Alex and all of this stuff, you realize, oh man, she was lying through her teeth on so many of the things. And I have to say, she was one good liar, because when I was watching that interview before, I kind of was falling for her. I was falling for it. But oh boy, do we know things are different. The one thing that I figured out, she's very much like her Aunt Lori, and that is, if she accuses someone of something, that's usually what she actually is doing. So when she's accusing Brandon of, there's different interviews, but like she accuses him of possibly harming the children. Like when she's like pounding on the door, trying to get her kids from the in-laws and blah, 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 because she thinks they're in danger. Look, they were in danger from her, because remember, as it came out in the trial, 2 of her kids were on the dark scale, which means zombie, and she knew it. She knew it. So for her to act like, no, there was no cult, there was no zombies, that's all a joke. No. We now know she knew all of it, and she was buying into it, hook, line, and sinker. So let me show you the video, and then there's one thing that is interesting to me, and that is, there were some videos done by different people in Lori's family, or in her circle, so to speak, and they were trusting her. There were neighbors that trusted Chad. There were family members that trusted Chad. They were 100% behind him until the kids were found. And then things changed. You can tell they changed a lot, especially when you look at Lori's sister's call to Lori when she was in jail, or her son Colby's call. No, they did not drink her Kool-Aid anymore, and they were so upset that they had been totally manipulated. But I think there was one person who didn't quite go down that track, and that is Melani Pawlowski. And the reason why I think that she is the one person, I'm going to tell you after I show you this clip and after the video. I'll tell you that at the end. But I have a suspicion, this is my own gut reaction, that she's still buying it. She's still drinking the Kool-Aid, and I feel bad. I feel bad for all of those around her. And I have to say, you'll see why I think that. Now, again, this is my opinion, but I have to say that it is a scary thing to think of all the things that her ex-husband, Brandon, had to go through, his kids, their kids, and the fact that I believe she has custody of those kids now. Find out that she believed 2 of them were zombies. Are they really safe? Are they safe today? That's the question I have. Are they safe today? Will she carry it out without Lori and Chad? Apparently not, but that's scary. That is so scary. And anyway, the reason why I think, nope, I'm going to tell it in a minute. First of all, let's watch some of the interview. And so you can see what I'm talking about with all of the lies and alibis. Let's take a peek at some of the whoppers Lori's niece Melani told.
My mom passed away when I was 9, and Lori is one of the closest things to her and how much love my mom showed me. So she's a friend, almost like a mother to me, and an aunt, and somebody that I love.
Is Lori being unfairly portrayed?
It's just not Lori that I see. I see a lot of hatred in the media and a lot of judgment. I see a lot of lies. I don't know where my cousins are, her children, JJ and Tylee, and I love all of them, and I know she's doing whatever she can to keep her kids safe, and I hope we can see how that turns out in the future as truth continues to come forward.
Now, I know this goes way back, and we have all the truth. Truth has, in fact, come forward. The reason I'm showing this clip is it shows a lot about where Melani's head was as far as covering for Lori and where the kids were, etc. Now, if she truly is innocent, which she might be, but there are some suspicious things about that too. So, okay, stick with me. We're going to continue on. Yes, please. Truth is what we're looking for. Here's another question. Did anything seem strange to you in Rexburg?
Well, I moved out there right after my ex took my children from me. There's a lot of lies out there that I've abandoned my children, and it's simply not true. I didn't move down there to be in a cult.
I don't know if I could call that a true statement based on all the proof that came out in the trial.
I didn't move down there to be solely by Lori. Lori's very independent and does her own thing.
Well, that's not quite true either, according to Lori's friend Melani Gibb, which we will listen to in a minute, but she claims that Melanie Pawlowski was totally abandoned when Lori and Uncle Alex were no longer there, because she in fact did go there for them.
I had my own reasons for, kind of having a fresh start and trying to work through my custody battle with my ex.
Oh, really? Well, that's interesting. Well, then answer this question. Did you follow Lori to Rexburg?
I had my own reasons for going, and I love my Aunt Lori, and it absolutely was a benefit to be close to her. She's been somebody that's given me unconditional love.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that she does unconditional love. Didn't you ever wonder where your cousins were?
She was moving for their safety.
This has to be the most ironic statement of everything Melanie Pawlowski even said in this interview.
And for those threatening her and to keep JJ and Tylee safe, this was a big move to try to, kind of move forward after Charles was shot and to remain safe with the kids. So as soon as I move up there in November, I see some of their stuff, but I don't see them there. And Lori says that they're safe and they're doing everything they keep them from the people that are trying to harm them. I believe that.
When I first heard this interview, I actually believed Melanie believed what she was saying. But I don't anymore, based on what she did after the kids were found. Her Facebook post was astonishing. But I keep jumping the gun. All right, let's get back to where we're at. Okay, if you believe that, did you think the children were zombies or in danger?
I didn't think they were in danger and didn't have those fears and doubts until this welfare check. And then Chad and Lori left. I didn't have contact with them, and I'm absolutely worried. I knew the threats that Lori had been getting, and I don't know what's going on. And so as, being in a new marriage, I'm kind of dumping on him. I'm worried about this, I'm worried about this. Meanwhile, we have all these false accusations and questions about this supposed shooting that Brandon Boudreaux is claiming that happened.
First of all, it's not a supposed shooting. The window was shot out. There's so much evidence, so much was brought out in the trial, and Melanie knew it.
And I've yet to see evidence and facts that come forward with that, but he's adamant about, it's Alex Cox that shot at him, and there's been no evidence that I've seen. And for a time I worried, could my uncle have done that? He's so sure, and I've got my own father threatening me and intimidating me with text messages, and I did worry. But when it comes back to it, I know the person Alex is. I haven't seen any evidence.
Really? She's going to defend Alex, which she knows shot Charles already, much less anything else. Yes, she does know the person Alex is.
And Detective Pillar on Gilbert Police never even called Alex or, asked him to come in for a visit.
Did you have anything to do with the attempted murder of your husband, Brandon Boudreaux?
Absolutely not. And Brandon knows that.
So basically, you're telling me that Lori just has a lot of bad luck?
I can't attest to all those different events, but I do know that Charles was there with an agenda, and he was working with Brandon and with Kay, and things didn't go the way he thought.
Now, remember when I said that when Melanie accuses someone of something, that tends to be the thing that she is, in fact, doing? Yeah. So she's accusing Brandon, she's accusing Charles, she's accusing Kay of wanting to harm the children, when in fact, better watch out. Those fingers are pointing right back at you, Melanie.
Events, but I do know that Charles was there with an agenda, and he was working with Brandon and with Kay, and things didn't go the way he thought.
Well, that's the understatement of the century, since he was shot and killed by your uncle that you knew was going to happen based on the text messages between you and Lori that were brought out during her trial.
Why is nobody asking why Charles had a $2 million policy on Lori?
Really? You're going to talk about insurance policies as a reason why Charles had to die? And that is what was brought out at the murder trial in Idaho, that in fact that was the reason for wanting Charles to die. And she's trying to act like that's the reason why he had to die. Like, I don't even think she realizes how incriminating her words are. Against Lori, against Chad, against her. I mean, this is just gaslighting at its best.
Charles and Brandon did life insurance together, and there's a lot of things that haven't been brought to light, things that aren't being portrayed in the media. They're being hidden so we can run with this cult story and, zombies, and it's more exciting than the truth.
Here she is trying to distance herself from the cult, from the zombie theories, from all of that, and yet she was in the thick of it, and there is proof of that. Well, tell me this. Do you think you will see Tylee and JJ again?
I do. I absolutely do. I know Lori wouldn't ever do anything to hurt her kids.
At this point, Melanie's declaration is ridiculous because she already knows that they plotted to have Charles killed and carried it out. She also knows that they plotted to have Brandon killed because she is the one who gave him the address. There were only a few people that knew where Brandon even lived. She knew.
I've seen the pain that she's gone through and the abuse and betrayal. I've seen authorities let her down. I've seen court systems let her down. I don't have the answers as to why she does the things she does and why she hasn't spoken as to where they are. But I can't judge her because I don't know what she's going through. I can only love and support her and hope for everyone to be safe.
Okay, I did put some commentation over that because I just couldn't help myself. Wow. Now that we look back on that video and we realize there's so much that we know now, ay, ay, ay. And so here's my thinking. Once JJ and Tylee were found, Melani, the niece, put a post on Facebook. And I'm going to read you the post because, at least a part of it, I think that it is very significant to show where she is. Now remember, this is her Facebook post after Tylee and JJ were found buried in her aunt's new husband's backyard. I will try my best not to sound too sarcastic, but this is crazy time. Tylee loved to have fun and didn't draw into drama, but would use it as a platform for her comedy. Boy, could she make others laugh. She went through a lot of hard things in her life, and she didn't deserve what happened to her. No one does. I truly wish she could go on live television and tell her story, rather than anyone else who has and will in the future. Just know the stakes are set high from that girl. Okay, so far so good. But wait. I know I could never measure up in that regard. As we've all seen, I'm horrible on live television, and I would rather not do it ever again, or to have to talk publicly about trauma my family has gone through. I was always so impressed with Tylee's ability to express herself and communicate well. I wish she was here to clear up all the confusion for us. She would do it better than any of the rest of us could. Melanie's comments are so much like Lori's at her sentencing hearing, where she's saying, they weren't murdered, they weren't this, they weren't that. Just ridiculous. Personally, I think that the children's remains do a pretty good job of telling the story, but let me continue on with the rest of the post. This is the part when I just got sick to my stomach when I read it. Tylee was one of the wittiest, spunkiest individuals I have ever had in my life. She didn't let what other people thought get to her. If you knew Tylee, she would probably be giving the biggest eye roll at all the drama unfolding in the media. To anyone using this terrible situation to express their hate and blame on others, she would probably tell you off because she was the sassiest thing ever and wasn't afraid to say how she felt. What kind of person, even in someone's death, would say, oh, they'd be upset that the media thinks it's ridiculous that they got murdered? I think that it is very significant to show where she is or was at that time. And she certainly, shows that even to this day, when she watched some of the testimonies so she wouldn't have to be a witness, she was going to be a hostile witness, I think. And she's still drinking the Kool-Aid. Will there be charges? What do you think? Do you think that there could still be charges for her? There is a theory out there that Melani might have been the getaway driver for Uncle Alex when her then husband was shot at. Let me show you a clip from a post I did earlier. Perhaps Melani Boudreaux Pulowski could have been the getaway driver. And I initially thought, no, I don't think so. I think it was probably Alex, and he jumped in the driver's seat and drove away. A lot of research. I've been combing every kind of document that I can find. And I have to say, I think you're all onto something. I agree. You've changed my mind. And I think it's an interesting concept, and here's why. Right off the bat, when Brandon first called 911 and the police were there with body cams, and I watched all those videos, hours of different angles and different whatever, I watched it all, but he immediately said, they shot at me. He said, there's something to the effect, there's no way that one person could have done it and driven away so fast. There had to have been two people, because he saw the muzzle of the gun shoot, his window shatters, and then he keeps on driving and starts following them. And he followed him for a little while until he realized this is dangerous, and he stopped following him. But obviously, the person was laying in the back, and we know that there's so much evidence. For instance, the Lori and Chad are seen on video surveillance going into their storage unit because they took that tire off the back of Tylee's Jeep Wrangler, so that if the tire's on the back, the window cannot lift up. And in order to make this happen, they needed that window to be up. So they put the tire in the storage shed, and they also needed to take out one of the car seats, like the great big seats, in order for Alex to be able to lay down back there in his black whatever with his muzzle, like lifting up the window, bring his muzzle out, shoot at Brandon. And then as soon as the glass shatters, Brandon keeps driving towards them, and the car drives away. So here's my question. There's really a lot of evidence. There's a lot that suggests that it was Alex.
So as I was kind of pulling in, they lifted their back window.
Okay.
I saw a muzzle. They shot.
That was Brandon describing what happened when he was shot at in October 2019. And I just have to think, who would have motive to be with Alex and be a getaway driver?
I noticed a green Jeep Wrangler.
Okay.
It's like a pukey green color. Had a Texas plate. I just moved in a week ago, so I thought maybe it was just my neighbor.
Okay.
So as I was kind of pulling in, they lifted their back window.
Okay.
I saw a muzzle. They shot.
Are we talking a real gun, a BB gun?
It's got to be like a BB gun or an airsoft.
Okay, so they shot, then what happened?
It hit my window, and instead of turning in, it scared me really bad.
Okay.
I thought, I'm getting shot at, so I drove straight. So I drove straight really fast.
Okay.
Pulled around the corner, got my phone out, called 911.
Could it be Melani? And here's the thing. After this happened, Brandon fled, as anyone would. He took his kids and he fled to another state, and he was trying to keep his kids safe. Lo and behold, who comes after them, pounding on the door? Melani.
My kids have been held out of state.
You were also criminally trespassed over the phone by me.
And who is she with? Good old Uncle Alex. Even though she was told she cannot come on the property, she still kept trying. She is very aggressive.
You were
I asked
warned.
an officer to come here last night to do a check-in because I'm worried they're in danger.
But you came over here after being told that you were criminally trespassed.
But I have an agreement saying that...
From this residence, correct?
But my order says that it's my time with my kids. They're supposed to be in Arizona. My husband's kept them out of school.
You were trespassed from this location.
Do you think this appears to be the behavior of an innocent person?
Do you have a victim's advocate I can speak to in the police department, please?
Well, la-di-da, here she goes again, using the same language as good old Auntie Lori. Because poor victim Lori needed an advocate after the fatal shooting of her husband, Charles. While Melanie's having this interaction with the police and actually getting arrested, good old Uncle Alex is out in the car waiting for her. What would have happened if American Fork Police didn't intervene that night? It's scary to think of. Was Hitman Alex there for a purpose?
Hello. What's up, Alex?
Yeah.
You have your ID on you, man?
Yeah.
Let me get that from you real quick.
Can I open the door? I just gotta.
Yeah, if you need to.
In my back pocket.
Just keep your hands out where we can see them, all right?
Based on this behavior, I like to pose a question. Who was the getaway driver? That's the question of the hour. Who was the getaway driver? And here's what we know. Brandon just rented a new place a few days before this happened. And the police asked, who knew where you lived? Well, there were only a handful of people that knew. He said his soon-to-be ex-wife, Melani, and then some other people in the neighborhood, because when he was moving in his things all by himself, and some neighbors came by and said, oh, let us help. So the neighbors who helped him move in his subdivision knew who he was and where he lived. And other than that, there's only one other person that had that address, and that is Melani Boudreaux Pulowski, however you want to say it. She's the one that knew. And she had motive. She has so many motives. Because, of course, she's buying into this whole thing that she claims is not a cult, right? So that's a little bit interesting right there. So this is what Brandon says. That morning, he had the kids at his place. He court-ordered had to give Melani the address of where he was with the kids. And there's 4 of them. He drives 2 of them to school, drops them off. The 3rd child he takes to a daycare, drops off. And then the 4th child, the young little toddler, he takes to Melani, drops off the child. Then he goes to the gym, and he's at the gym for a couple hours. In the meantime, that gives plenty of time for Uncle Alex to come over and pick up Melani with the baby. This is another thing that's just like blows my mind. So did she get a babysitter that day for the little baby that was with her? Well, there's no sign that she did. No one has come forward, and this is all over the internet, as we know. No one has come forward to say that they babysat that baby that morning. So my guess is she put the baby in the back of the Wrangler Jeep and buckled him in. She drove. The whole thing is mind-boggling. And she had plenty of time to then go back home. Alex drives. He literally drove all the way out and all the way back. They have all this within 24 hours. And then Lori is Google searching to see if someone was killed. I think they didn't know for sure if he got shot and if he was wounded, if he was injured, or if he died. They know that he came after them for a little while, but they don't know until later. Now, as far as whether or not Melani has custody of her children, this is what makes me think she might. This is when she was served about having to go to the trial in Idaho, and she talks about getting her kids to school. And now it's possible that we're talking about Ian's kids and she just calls them her kids. So I can't 100% verify this, but it's a possibility that she does have at least partial custody of her kids.
Testify, what information you have on that pending case.
Okay.
I assume you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The case I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well, let's talk about I don't know. Sorry, I gotta go. This is school, so I just gotta get this signed.
Okay. So yeah.
Okay, now let's jump back to the morning after her husband at the time, Brandon Boudreaux, was shot at. Let me show you that interrogation interview. The morning after Alex attempted to shoot Brandon, the police interviewed, however you want to say it, Melani Boudreaux. She was still married to Brandon at the time. They were separated. And I've got pieces of her interview that I want to talk to you about.
Has been bullying. I try to just minimize like the texting at all. Last night he kind of blew my phone up and was kind of acting different, and I just didn't want to talk to him. Didn't know what he kind of got himself into, and so a relationship isn't like awesome.
I'm not going to show the entire interview because there is so much chaff and redirect that goes on with Melani. Basically, she's trying to draw attention away from herself, in my opinion. And I get that from chaff and redirect is terminology that I learned from watching the behavior panel. And they basically say that a lot of times people will throw things out there to try to get you to go towards something different than what really is happening. In my opinion, there's a lot of victim blaming and a lot of bashing. And I'm not going to give her the time to air the horrible things she says about her soon-to-be ex-husband, Brandon. But I do want to zero in on some of the things that she says that I think are pretty big tells in how she was possibly involved. Let's listen.
Started to do a lot of bad business deals with people that just had many people come to us say, don't do business with this type of person, it's not a good person. So yeah, I mean, I've gotten to a point where there's been so many lies I don't believe what he says anymore, so I don't know how to, we're just doing it the best we can, the back and forth, trying to just not see him as much. If it's in a text phone.
Okay. Telephone, or is that text or something else?
We try to just do text, and so he called me a ton of times. Last night he said, can I call you, it's important, and I just over and over calls and texts, and I kind of felt like something was off, and so I just didn't answer. And this morning he said, I've had a bad day, and then I responded this morning, and I said, he said, I just want to make sure the kids are okay, so I was like, yeah, the kids are fine, like they were in bed when you called, and we're getting ready for school, it's early in the morning, I hope you're having a better day. But yeah, I tried to only text. That's why it was weird when he was like, I call you, left me a message. He said, I don't want to talk about it over the phone.
Did you guys talk at all last night?
No, I just texted him this morning.
Okay.
So.
And what did you text him this morning?
When or what?
Both.
So I just said, yes, the babies are fine. They were tucked in bed, getting ready for school now. Hope you're having a better day. And that was at 6:52 a.m.
Okay. Your day from the moment you woke up to the moment you went to bed last night?
Went to, I don't know. What did we do? Wednesday? Did we go to Aunt Jen's house?
I find it interesting that she asks her toddler, what did we do yesterday? Did we go to Jen's house? And then she switches from saying what she did to saying what she usually does. And based on what I've learned from my behavior panel lessons, this would be the perfect time to stop and say, hang on there. No, wait a minute. If I'm the interrogator, don't tell me what you usually do. Tell me what you did yesterday.
Went to, I don't know. What did we do? Wednesday? Did we go to Aunt Jen's house?
I wish the interrogator would have said, hey, did you happen to go for a ride with Uncle Alex in a Jeep?
We usually just go to the park, we run, sometimes we go to the gym.
Which kids did you have yesterday?
Mommy, it's not working.
So I only pick up...
Papa told me not working.
So
I have her during the day, and then after school on Wednesdays, I pick up my others from school.
around what time?
So at 2:40 we got there, and then it takes like 3:20 to finally pick them up at ALA, and then then we went to Santana Mall and we looked at the puppies, then we played there.
to go grocery shopping, but then we ordered it online through Amazon, and then my boring life.
No.
And then, then we were home, we made dinner, and then went to bed. I picked my 4-year-old at Legacy, so it's across the street from us, and he goes to all-day fall break camp right now, so I picked him up at 6. And then came back, we went to bed, and then Brandon started calling me at 8:30-ish, and we were kind of already in bed at that time, so I was kind of in and out of it, and just kind of felt a little unsettled throughout the night, like, is he going to show up at my house, what's going on?
So you went to the mall yesterday. Who was with you at the mall?
Great. I'm going to save you a whole bunch of time. You won't have to listen to the whole thing like I did. The bottom line is this. She does a lot of Brandon hate. Now, I get it. People that are going through divorce, they have a lot of bad things to say about their exes. Their soon-to-be exes. But this is crazy. And during the custody battle, a lot of the documents are now public record, and a lot of what she's saying is, not completely out there yet, but everything that is showing that she's just lie. She does a lot of lying. But I find it ironic that while she's doing her chaff and redirect, she ends up bringing, and she's trying to stay away from her, she ends up bringing up, as if this is a bad thing towards Brandon's character, so to speak, she brings up the fact that her Aunt Lori's husband was shot and killed by Alex Cox, her beloved uncle, because of a domestic dispute, blah, blah, blah. But she basically is bashing Brandon through all that because Brandon, at the time, oh, this is just so complex. At the time, Charles was suspicious that they were going to try to kill him. So he was contacting Brandon to say, I think they're trying to kill me. And so then Melani tries to use that against Brandon as he too they're trying to kill. So to me, all it does is bring more suspicion on her, but she thinks she's putting it out there. Like, this is going to show that Brandon's a bad guy. Whatever. The other thing is, as you go along with her timeline, and she takes forever. She does, gaslighting. Like, just talk about a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. But then when it comes to the parts that do matter, she's forgetful. She can't remember what she did, although she goes along and tells minute by minute by minute everything she did. Went to Jamba Juice, went to the mall, went to all this stuff. But she can't remember exactly what happened in this certain time frame, which happens to be the time frame when allegedly Uncle Alex was shooting at Brandon. She says she was home alone, no alibi, and washing the dishes. Whatever. Whatever. I'm not saying every mom has every alibi, whatever. But I think the biggest mistake that she makes during this whole interview is when they finally get around to telling her that her husband was shot at. She has no reaction. She says something to the effect of, oh, that makes me sick to my stomach. But she's not sick to her stomach. She's not reacting. She's not devastated. Oh, my word, I should have taken his call last night. This is so horrible. Who's trying to kill my husband? Am I in danger? Are my kids in danger? None of that. None of it. She goes back into her routine of victim blaming Brandon. Like, he deserves to be shot at because blah, blah, blah. I don't know. After she goes on and on explaining about what she usually does on a Wednesday, which has nothing to do with what she did that day, the investigator doesn't let her off the hook, and he keeps coming back to it. No, tell me what you did yesterday at this time. And here's what she said.
I don't think we went anywhere because we were going to go to the gym, but she was like throwing a fit in the back of the car, so I was like, let's just go home. So I just kind of cleaned up the kitchen and kind of stayed home.
After that interview, the detectives didn't really have anything to really suspect her, even though there was a lot of nonsense going on in the interview. But who would think so? I mean, you look at her, she looks like a nice lady, and she looks like she's in a hard divorce and whatever. It's very similar to the way that everyone thought about Lori when she was talking to the investigators after Charles's murder. I mean, it didn't seem right. Things didn't necessarily add up, but, oh, let's get her a victim's advocate. I mean, they suck you in. I'm telling you, they suck you in. So anyway, after this, as you can imagine, Brandon is very suspicious that it's them. He has very good reason to believe that it's his ex-wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife, and Uncle Alex, because he's already been in contact with Charles, who was killed, and then his life was attempted. So what does he do? He runs for it, like any sane person would. He grabbed his kids and he ran, and he went in hiding. And boy, did that make Melani mad. And here's why. Like, nobody wants to lose their kids. So you would think that that's the reason that a person's mad. But there might be a little bit more to it for Miss Melanie, Melanice, as we say. For those of you who don't know why we say Melanice, it's just to distinguish between the two Melanies, since Melanice is the niece of Lori. So that's where that comes from. Chad and Lori deem 2 of Melanice's kids, Melanie Pulowski's kids, as dark, and then as zombies. And you know what happens to dark zombies? Nothing good. She is known to have, there's text messages that have been brought out that show that she's like, oh, sometimes kids turn dark. Oh, it's not like she's trying to defend her kids from them having the same fate that we soon find out Lori's kids have, which isn't good. But anyway, she's buying in, hook, line, and sinker. She's trying to say on all her interviews she's not involved in any cult. Well, that's just not true, because all the text messages, calls, all of the proof is in the pudding. She was 100% in like Flynn. So it comes to the point where she needs to get those zombies. They need to be taken out of this world, which are 2 of her kids. So she goes to Utah to try to find them. She has a feeling they're staying with her in-laws, and sure enough, she finds out her kids are at her in-laws' house. So what does she do? She goes and tries to break in to take them. And she's got her Uncle Alex, the hitman, with her. And of course, they're scared to death. Brandon's parents, and the kids. So they have the doors locked. She's pounding on the door. She gets called. They call the police. She gets told to leave the premises. She's got some documents for mediation, which she says shows that the judge says that she's supposed to have her kids. All of this is lies. There's been no court. It's a mediator. It's not a judge. Not to mention, regardless what the judge says, Brandon's in fight for your life, and he's just like, I'll deal with the courts later. I'm sure I would. Who wouldn't? So she's pounding on the door. Police come. They tell her she has to leave. Now, the second day, she tries to go in. The garage door was open, so she goes through the garage, and she's trying to break in, and she's pounding on the doors, scaring everyone, because they know people die around her. And so, again, 911 is called.
Basically, Melanie appears to me to be a lot like her Aunt Lori. She is not someone you trifle with. Let's just say that. Now, let's talk about what Melanie Gibb, Lori's friend, said in a secret recorded call when she was talking about Melanie, niece, and whether or not she went to Rexburg to join with her auntie and her uncle.
If you remember, she said she did not go to Rexburg to follow Lori or to follow a cult, but she was there because she needed a break and she needed to get away. But not according to what Melanie Gibb has to say.
And I've been in touch with Melanie, her niece, that got involved, and I've been trying to call her and help her, and she's just really jacked up. Like, she lost her kids, she got divorced.
Oh, no.
And she's up in Rexburg alone. Everybody else abandoned her. I mean, it's so sad. Yeah, it's so sad.
So, yet another lie from Melanie Pulowski. I just think she's full of it. But the question is she full of it enough to be a co-conspirator?
Do you think that Melanie could have charges coming as a conspirator to the attempted murder of her then-husband, Brandon Boudreaux? Let me know in the comments. And I will see you again soon. See ya.